Welcome everyone, good morning. And again, welcome to our second session of Experiential Raj Yoga Meditation at our Tapasya Dham retreat home with our guest facilitator, Jim Ryan from UK. So Jim, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and take over.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Nice to be with everybody again. Hope everyone's well as you expected anyway, isn't it? And as we did last week, we'll start with some kind of relaxation, reflection, kind of taking our mind into a space where we can harmonize together. And I think it's especially important with spirituality is to keep our, when we're discussing or we're moving into a kind of spiritual space, I think it's very important for the mind to be as uncluttered as possible. You know, I mean, it's in today's world, it's a difficult thing, isn't it? That we have so many things that come knocking at the door. And this is partly the topic that I'm going to address later, this thing about influence and how meditation can help us cope with influences and deal with them and change them to some degree or work with them in an effective way. But I think it's very important to start out, when you start out any kind of venture, is to make the mind open, fresh, and receptive. Even if it's going to work or meeting somebody, because you want your mind to be clear, so therefore you can kind of harmonize and connect with that new situation. So it's important when on a day-to-day basis, but especially so on a spiritual level when we're working with such subtle vibrational energies. So let's begin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch in a chaotic mode, probably, I'm not sure, I'll put some slides on. I think it's always conducive, isn't it, to bring them up. Okay. And I'll play some music in the background as well. Okay. So just relax. Breathe slowly. Breathe deeply. Drop your shoulders. Just relax your body. And sit as comfortable as you can. And let us turn our mind inwards into our inner world. Away from the plans and the thoughts and the issues that probably we've been connecting with during the day. And as we go inside, we can let go of all the kind of emotionality that sometimes we kind of carry or we are influenced by. And we just go into this dimension of silence, which is kind of separate from the chaotic, energetic world around us. And immediately we feel the energy of peace. It's a kind of calming, isn't it? It's a kind of feeling where the turmoil of the surrounding world can't intrude. So let us think about just this word peace. Just hold it as a resonance. Just think about the word peace. Because spirituality teaches us that our eternal nature and original religion is peace. My essence is peace. And so now I connect with my essence, my original state of being, of peace. I'm turning my mind inwards, turning my thoughts and feelings and emotional responses to the things of the world I let go of them. And I can just slip into this inner world of silence, in this inner world of peace. And I become aware of that my mind is now becoming freer, calmer. There are now no thoughts of the day, of other people, about my own plans and activities. I choose to let these go. I put them aside for this just short time. These things are not important at this moment. They're just passing through. If any thoughts come, just let them go. And we find now that our thoughts are beginning to slow down. My mind becomes quieter. And the quiet spaces between each thoughts continues to grow. I become aware of the silence that is there, even before a thought begins to come. And in this silence, I begin to experience a very deep sense of peace, peaceful thoughts, and peaceful feelings now fill my mind. And let's just hold this just for a moment. This feeling of peace. And I become aware, and I remember deep within my psyche, there is a spiritual memory that I accept, that I acknowledge, that I am peaceful. I'm a peaceful energy, a peaceful being. And as I focus on myself, I now become very relaxed and very light. I'm flowing peaceful energy. I'm very still, floating, gliding in this sea of silence, in this sea of peace. I'm like a tiny star in a sea, in a vast arena of silence. And as I begin to feel at peace, I also get a sense of who truly I am. I am a peaceful, calm, serene being. So different from my physical awareness of who I thought I was or the world said I was. I realize I am this unique spiritual being. And as I create these peaceful thoughts and peaceful feelings in my mind, I become aware, deep in my spiritual heart, of this pure energy which is myself, a peaceful being, a silent being, in harmony with myself and others in the world. And just hold this feeling and repeat to ourselves, I'm peace, a peaceful being, calm and serene. And just hold this energy, hold this sense of self. Om Shanti. It's a very nice experience, isn't it? When we step away from everything, when we let go of everything. And it is kind of a silent experience, isn't it? We're free. It's a sense of being now in this unique sense of our own self. And there's no responsibilities, there's no plans, there's no projections, there's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow. There's just this sense of self, which is peace. And so, and it's quite interesting, isn't it, that we learn meditation, and we so often think life's issues are now all under control. You know, all problems are solved. Life's like a garden of roses. It's meditation. It's the miracle ingredient. It washes, it cleans, sorts, removes all stains. Life is all strawberries and cream. Okay, you know, the meditation is a very powerful tool, and it helps us move into a new space as we experienced just there, isn't it? And it gives us the ability to create new attitudes, experiences. It's a subtle energy that improves and changes our personal feelings and relationships. Yeah, but isn't it? It's quite interesting, isn't it, that yet we live in a world that's not that. It's a world of incredible influences and continual personal challenges. You know, it's a swirling vortex of increasing negative effects. You know, that, you know, small children will acknowledge it and say so. They're, you know, that come continually, isn't it? All these effects come continually knocking on our door. And more than that, in fact, they're trying, in fact, to knock down the entire house, not just knock on the door. And so I think storms come into our lives, and yeah, we can ignore them. I think, you know, that we can run away from them. You know, the issues that we face. Some people do. You know, that it's like you blank them off, or you know, someone was telling me the other day about the Bedouin Arabs of the Sahara. When there's a big storm coming in the desert, what happens is they immediately stop. They don't fight it. They don't run away from it, but they just lie down and they cover themselves and let the sand, the huge storm that comes, sweep over them. And they just stay still. And when the storm has passed, they just get up and continue their journey. Maybe that's one way of approaching things. I'm sure it is in some cases, isn't it? That's just let things go, let it pass over us. Well, there's a very famous story of the ship. You may have heard of this. There's a ship that was in the North Atlantic, and suddenly there was a huge hurricane that came upon them, and there was no way that the ship could kind of like escape it. And they were kind of like, they were all in a frantic worry what to do. They couldn't outrun it, and immediately they were in a quandary what to do. And suddenly the ship's captain ordered the ship to sail directly into the hurricane. They were flabbergasted, there was almost a mutiny. But the captain realized that in the center of the hurricane, there's a center of calmness. There's a kind of an area where it is completely still. It's quite an amazing kind of phenomena. In the middle, it's just calm, stillness. And so he ordered the ship to go into the middle of the hurricane, and he stayed there. And the ship traveled with the hurricane. And as it traveled up, and it went on, as it got nearer a port, he immediately jumped out and quickly shot to the nearest port, and so survived the hurricane. And so, that's one way of kind of coping and dealing with the issues, isn't it? That you travel with it, you adapt to it, you deal with it in that particular way. And I think meditation is also about finding that center of calmness, that center of stillness that enables us to deal with the things that are coming to our life. And more and more, isn't it? We're having to face all these stuff that comes not just regularly, but almost daily, isn't it? Regularly, that we're facing issues, we're facing very, very big, decisions to make our lives. And it helps us to sort of stand back and create a different set of approaches and strategies to the stuff that comes and will come our way. So we hope that meditation will help us deal with these things. And so this morning, we'll look at some ways that we can use meditation and spiritual understanding to help us deal with these life's influences and effects in a powerful and effective way. It's not just a thing that you do. You say, I do meditation when you go to parties, and they go, oh, that's very nice, but what's the use of it? And so meditation is a very practical, powerful, and effective tool that I think without it, I don't think it's possible. My personal take is that I don't think it's possible to deal with the things that are coming, and that we're having to face on a regular level. So I'd like to ask you, a question. Okay. We're facing lots of things from people. Would you say you're under some kind of influence at this particular moment? Have you ever been under an influence? Are you under an influence? And how do you deal with it? What influences you the most? Have you thought about that? It's an interesting question. Have you thought about it? I mean, people's reaction, I think, is quite common to many of the kind of things that influence us, isn't it? Like smell of certain foods. We kind of react to that, don't we? I love cut grass, the smell of cut grass. Immediate influences, it kind of gives me it uplifts me. Or wood smoke. I love wood smoke. What influences us could be maybe things in the shops. TV, of course, is a huge influence on our awareness, on our consciousness. Certain noises, isn't it? That can irritate us, or it can help us in some way, or a lack of certain things, old memories influence, isn't it? Constantly we're triggering kind of things from our past, and these seem to constantly create different kind of reaction or emotional feelings to us in that particular way. And it goes on and on and on, isn't it? I mean, some things have a definite influence on us, the immediate influence, for example, snow, you feel cold immediately, don't you? probably if you're an Eskimo, I think Eskimos feel the cold eventually, I suppose. A very hot sun, or have a shot of whiskey, or a chili, or you see something traumatic or an accident, or a joke. Immediately you hear a joke, it changes your mindset, doesn't it? It influences you. You smile, maybe before you were a bit depressed and so on. So our life is quite interesting, isn't it? Our life is made up of so many different forms and types of influence. It's almost that our whole life is only composed of just influences. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? How much of our life is not framed or in reaction to those influences. And we spend our time kind of dealing with them, reacting to them in that particular way. People, situations, things come our way, and we respond, don't we? We respond to them. Seems to be always kind of reacting to it. And what happens is, of course, when all these things come to us, we try to assess and discriminate and make a decision, and some kind of experience. And then what happens is that we experience then the consequences of those particular decisions and reactions, either good or bad, isn't it? Yeah, ultimately it's our choice. It comes down to us because we're making that choice, and we decide the outcome or effect, which is cause and effect. So this is, not in spiritual terms, this is the law of karma, cause and effect. And so we're often generally, I don't know if you would agree, we're often not sure what's good or bad in some cases. And so what happens is that so often we become open to everything. We're trying to work out what's best for us, yet then we have to experience the consequences and their effect. And so this kind of clogs us up. This then adds to the confusion, adds to the influences when we make wrong decisions or we make wrong choices or choices that are not suitable. And that complicates the issue and complicates our kind of feeling about the things around us. We lower our own self-esteem and so on. And so on, isn't it? So what I'd like to look at now is maybe look at some of the main influences that we're facing. I think this is why in spirituality, it's like understanding the things that we're facing, and then having the ability to it's like you recognize it, and then you have the ability to change it. Because meditation is not just an experiential state where we experience all transcendental kind of euphoric inner awareness and beauty, but it opens our awareness into the reality of how things are and how things work or don't work. And I was just looking at some of the main things. I thought these were the main 9 influences. And there's probably so many more that you probably could add to it. And I was just looking at some of the effects. There's probably a huge amount more than that. Look at the first one is the body, isn't it? An obvious main influence, the main thing that we live with. And we feel every twinge and twitch, that it's there, every kind of reaction the body has. We kind of pay attention. We're a slave to its needs constantly, aren't we? And we're concerned what it looks like or doesn't look like. And we worry about, will people find our body attractive or not attractive and so on. And it goes on and on, isn't it? It's a book in itself. The second influence, I'm not putting these in any particular order, because for every individual, some of them may have more a precedence than others at different times in our life. But these are just main influences I thought that we have to contend with. The past, isn't it? That these are like memories, isn't it? And constantly being triggered as our mind kind of oscillates and starts to move out of our kind of control. And it's been triggered, we start to feel sad or we start to feel fear, things, because it connects with kind of things of the past or memories of things that went wrong or things that we felt we lost. And then, or sometimes feelings of things that we should have had. So we feel resentful or regret. And of course, one of the big effects of these is we try to escape the past. And because we're in a kind of cul-de-sac, we try lots of alternative methodologies, isn't it? That we try religion. We think God's going to help us, or the guru is going to help us, or so on, or the kind of the ritualism. We lose ourselves, and momentarily they help to some degree, don't they? We lose ourselves in that thing, but we have to leave it when we finish it. Or we take drugs. Drugs as a kind of, it blots out memory, blots out feelings. The media, of course, is a huge escape kind of arena, constantly, and so on. And or being busy constantly. We busy ourselves because we don't want to face the responsibilities or issues that we that coming in front of ourselves. Food, of course, is a huge one. That we're obsessed. We have to eat food, and so what happens is that we eat too much of it, and it creates an obsession. There's greed, there's illness, and so on and so forth, isn't it? As the saying goes, you are what you eat, and so on. People, that's a surprise, isn't it? It's quite interesting. In fact, the other day, someone was telling me that 85%. This is a general fact. 85% of people experience stress. 85%. That's kind of like huge number, isn't it? So what happens is they're going through stuff, and of course they connect with us, they interact with us, and so they trap us in their needs, their world, their wants, and so on. They want us to facilitate their help, their changes. Could be our family, our friends, our workmates, and so on. And so we get pulled into this kind of this network, this web, of needs and ideas. And of course, because of that, we lose our own sense of journey. We lose our own sense of need, and so on. Consumerism, the religion of today, isn't it? It's the big religion, isn't it, of accumulation, that you must buy, you must need. And so it creates this sense of unending desire. And of course, spirituality says you're not physical. So physical things won't satisfy you, but consumerism tells you, oh, it will. The more you get, the more you're going to be happier. You're going to be happy. And of course, we're brainwashed into wanting to live in the advert, the TV ad, we're all happy, smiling people, lovely, and we want to be part of that world. And so we kind of want that, and we kind of buy into it, or we're kind of brainwashed into it, aren't we? In that sense. And one of the things one of the knock-on effects, all of these have got knock-on effects, isn't it? Because I can't afford, or I can't buy into it fully. So I cheat and I lie and I steal and so on. And that creates a whole lot of other influences and so on. The media, of course, we live in a media world, isn't it? Multifaceted effects, isn't it? The media, isn't it? It's escapist, films, TV, social media and so on, and it creates fear, of course, it creates fear through wrong information and so on, that fear of not having. It shows you what you should have. It's very much connected with consumerism, isn't it? And so on. Media, I feel, at this particular time, is a sort of an anesthetic. It kind of dulls the brain. We can't think clearly. We can't think. It stops us thinking. It stops us trying to see clearly, because we allow the kind of the bombardment of its imagery and its emotionality, all the things that we know that's there. The atmosphere. I mean, because of all the stuff that we've been talking about, the atmosphere is filled. Yeah, we can go to places that are very nice. You've got some beautiful places in the countryside, but that's slowly been eroded, isn't it? As the negativity of our world encroaches everywhere. And so all these kind of things that we kind of experience creates heaviness, despondency, pollution, and it creates ill health, mental negativity, and so on, and causes us so many kind of emotional negative feelings. And it creates fear, and it affects our take on life, that immediately it's like you look out and it's like even though the sun's shining, the atmosphere is like a blanket of darkness that surrounds us in that way. This one might surprise you. I put down entities or spirits. And it's quite interesting that one of the things that spirituality teaches us is that when people leave the body, not everybody incarnates. And especially when you commit suicide, people, souls, individuals don't incarnate immediately. And so they wander. And, like, I think one of the kind of stats I saw recently or the other day was that at least 1.5 million people commit suicide regularly. It's a yearly stat. But now increasingly, I think this is completely out of date. With all the kind of fears and worries and COVID stuff, many more, it must be double that. I think it must be at least 2 million. Imagine it, 2 million entities, 2 million souls each year wandering around. And of course, they leave the body in a state of fear, anxiety, worry, depression. And there are many others who are in a worse state. And that adds to the kind of atmospheric vibration, which, if we're not careful, will influence us, it influences people's, kind of vision and people's interaction. And of course, love is a big influence, isn't it? Love is, you could say, is our primal energy. And of course, we're not sure about love, that we're told you've got to love cars, you've got to love houses, you've got to love donkeys, you've got to love trees. You're not sure. There's a complete disorientation of how we can direct our love. Where is love? How do we get love? How to direct our love, and so on and so forth. And so we're not sure. And we want love. We want people to love us, isn't it? But they won't love us because I don't love them. And because I don't love them, they won't love me. So it goes on. Yeah, we're driven by love. But then consumerism comes in and says, oh, no, don't worry, just love your car. Just love your shoes. And so on. It's a mess, isn't it? How much influence works, isn't it? This swirling, all of them interacting and could cause such confusion. So life, isn't it? A life is spent trying to deal with all these things, trying to decide, the correct choices and the meaning of things in that particular way. So it's so difficult in that particular way. So we can begin to see then, how we can be influenced. But influences are not isolated. It's not an isolated thing or unconnected. We're energy beings and we live in an energetic universe. All things connect and are connected. So I think I'll move my slide along, a little bit here. And what happens is that as we can't connect and all these things connect, let me just move that down there. Oh yeah, okay, I've jumped a little bit there. But I want to show you a little diagram how things are connected. And this diagram shows how the interactions of our personal world, our everyday universe, affects the whole field. And I'll explain it in a way that's not so complicated, really. It's like that if we look at our thoughts, I think I've got a little pointer here. I think somewhere might be helpful. I don't know how to use these things. Here we have a little pointer there as well. So if our thoughts, we have a thought. Directly, I have a thought, it affects my feelings. And then my feelings, what happens is it affects my attitude. My stance on things. This attitude then will affect our what we say, what we speak, our language, the type of language, negative, positive, aggressive, all the stuff. This then, our words will affect our actions. And then our actions, positive or negative, will affect others. As we interact with others, it will affect others. And then as we affect others, what happens is you can see it's an energy flow. It's not static. Everything affects everything else. This is cause and effect. And so this vibrational flow moves out and affects the atmosphere. Automatically, our actions are affecting the atmosphere. It's affecting the world. And this energy vibration goes out and it affects nature. The animal kingdom, the natural kingdom, the animal worlds, these are kind of receptive fields. They don't create their own field, but they're receptive. They react to the vibrational energy that's set up from mankind. And so they're absorbent. And so they reflect this. This energy field is still going out, still traveling out. It moves out into space and comes back. But what I'd like to show, to explain that a little bit more in a way, I'll go back. It's a bit like, let me look at this, just a little bit about, I missed that slide earlier. Yeah, it's a little bit about how these things are happening. It's like a ripple effect, like a drop of water into a pool. You can see the drop happens and the ripple effects go out, isn't it? They go out and they go out and they go out and hit the side of the pool and they come back. They come back, they come back, they come back. So it comes back to where it originated from. And that's like the example I was showing. And I'd like to go back to kind of an example. I found this example is maybe a bit complicated, but I hope it's not. And just to kind of explain this kind of reciprocal, it sounds a bit complicated, it looks a bit, but it's not really, if you can bear with me. It's like how it works, how energy works within ourselves. So we think about, let's go back to our example, the mind, okay, a bit like my mind, empty sometimes, isn't it? Our mind has a thought, and the mind affects the body. Everything that the body is kind of going through is created by the mind. Then the body, generally, we kind of affects the atmosphere, what we do, okay? It's kind of a cut short. I've not covered all the examples I gave earlier. Affects the atmosphere. Then this vibrational wave, this kind of wave affects others who move in the atmosphere. They're affected by the atmosphere created by, say, individuality. This vibrational energy goes out into nature. That vibration travels out, carrying on, out into the planets, still traveling, still going out, travels out into space. Now, this is the interesting thing, really, which is kind of the nub of this particular diagram, is that the vibrational energy, this wave, doesn't keep going on forever. But if we take Einstein's theory of the curved universe, that it bends back, the vibration bends back like this. It reaches a kind of a perimeter, a finite point, and bends back. And it travels back through space, back through the planets, back through nature, back through others again, back through the atmosphere, back to our body, back to ourselves. So the original thought that was initiated comes back to us. This is a cycle, the cycle of return, the law of karma. And you wonder why things are happening to you is because you've initiated it. It's come back to you because you sent it out. Are you with me with that? Whatever you experience has been initiated or created by yourself. We follow this particular theory. So the mind, body affects the body, affects the atmosphere, travels out into space, bends back. So it's your original thought is coming back to you. But at the same time, it's affecting all the other kind of dimensions, all the other energy fields. So we're responsible for the things that are happening around us. And so what's happening if it's a negative thought, that then will affect, it'll come back as a double domino effect. That negative thought, it hits nature, the planets, and it comes back, maybe with an greater intensity. So it sweeps back, compounding the effect in that particular way. maybe I could kind of explain it maybe with a bit more practical example here. We've got this kind of example here. This is an example of, say, negative thinking, say negative thoughts. It's sometimes easier to show that if you have a negative thought, the effect is it creates feelings of rage. This affects our attitude. We create hate in our attitude. This hate affects our language. We become aggressive. Then our actions become violent. This affects others. Then others become fearful or aggressive and return that aggression. And they then, this is quite interesting, create their own little kind of cycle, and then initiate it, and they affect others. And so we're responsible, possibly, for the behavior of others, for our world. How about that? Take that on board. Pretty heavy, eh? Let's go back to our kind of cycle, our circle of energy. The circle of energy carries on, travels back into the atmosphere, creating heaviness, aggressive, depression, travels out into nature, receptive, becomes disturbed, heavy. Nature, the animal kingdom, become fearful, frightened. You go near an animal today, isn't it? They shy away. Or what they do is they'll bite you. They'll kill each other. I don't think animals are naturally aggressive, but their vibrations, the kind of effect over time, they've accumulated these effects either through fear, timidity, or outward aggression, one or the other. Goes into space and so on, comes back to ourselves. So in a way, we can begin to see how this kind of influence is happening. Our world is being created by ourselves. This, that we are responsible. We create that original thought. You ever thought, it might be interesting, isn't it, that the thoughts and a thought that we created in the past might be still going on. Its effect might be still traveling through time and space, if it's powerful enough. It's a possibility, possibly. I thought this might be interesting just to look at this particular thing is about states of influence, that the soul initially, when it incarnates, when it goes into the kind of embryonic form in the womb, influences the body. It comes with its nature, it comes with its feelings, its thoughts, and the body formulates, composes itself according to the state of the soul. Gradually, in the second part, the body then begins to influence the soul as eventually it starts to dominate and control the needs and feelings, and the body, the soul becomes subservient to the needs of the body, as we can see, through our own experiences and as you can see from a young child, gradually, the goodness and the purity of the little child becomes overridden by all the influences that it's subjected to in that particular way. And then number 3 is quite interesting. This is about through spiritual awareness in that particular way, that the soul regains the ability to regain control and direct its feelings and needs through self-awareness. So the soul influences the body. It begins to take control. So spirituality is how we can change this negative flow and cycle and repattern our attitude to things and change in that particular way. And how we can begin to kind of create positivity and well-being, and we begin to influence the planet. Quite interesting, so much stuff is out there now, isn't it? How we can help the planet, how we can change the kind of the ecosphere and all the rest of it. But simply, just by consciousness, that we can, through our positive thoughts, through our spiritual thoughts, we can repattern the energy fields and the fields around us in that particular way. So what can we do? First of all, we need to change our thinking. This is the crucial thing, isn't it? That we need to initiate that first thought. And spirituality tells us, I'm a spiritual being. That we need to take that advice in that particular way. This immediately will help to break this pattern, this cycle of negativity that we have kind of built up that we've kind of created within ourselves. And we need then to kind of think about what type of spiritual being, and we connect with our primal energy of love in that particular way. I'm a spiritual being full of love. Just for a moment, let's just connect with this kind of feeling, this self-advice, which is spirituality, which is meditation. Just reaffirm that to yourself. I'm a spiritual being, a being of love. This is incredibly important. This is incredibly, earth-changing, life-changing, universe-changing. We can begin to change things in a very powerful way. And let's maybe just very briefly, might be getting sick of my little circles, is just to see how it works. Like, how does it work? Because I think when we see how things work on a real level, we can then begin to kind of give it kind of respect, and we can give it authenticity, and we can then adopt it and feel this is worth doing. And you think about when your thoughts are full of love, I'm a loveful being, immediately your feelings start, you start to feel full of well-being. Isn't it? Then immediately your attitudes change into acceptance of yourself, of others, the world. There isn't that criticality, there isn't that kind of rejectionism. Our language then becomes positive, full of support for others, full of kindness, full of goodness. I think we just about see there, and our actions become benevolent. For the first time, we can give, because we're not trapped and hemmed in by selfish desires and needs, because we've opened up the benevolent heart so we can give. Because we feel this is the right thing to do. This is the natural thing. Positive energy has to move out. So others experience that love from us, empathy, relationships change automatically, that we support, we respect, we accept. And that energy vibration sweeps out into the atmosphere. The atmosphere changes. Lightness, easiness, calmness. It's a nice place to be. And that energy is sweeping out into nature. And the natural worlds, the animal kingdoms are absorbing this, are regenerating, are feeling kind of the benefit of that. And you yourself, when you go near animals, when you're open and loving and accepting and not aggressive to animals, they respond, don't they, generally anyway. Although I would say take a while to put your hand in a tiger's cage, but that might take a bit of time. But generally animals are in that particular way. And the vibration goes out into space and so on. So we can begin to see that cycle of change. Okay, that's kind of on a theoretical level and on a real level. But what I'd like to say is that, okay, that's that. Yeah, unfortunately, I think in our world today at this particular time, such is the state of negativity and the effect of the energetic field, our positive spiritual new energies, this kind of flow of goodness and stuff, often is not strong enough. That I might have good feelings and I might have a kind of positive outlook of things, but it might not be strong enough to deal with the negative flows that we have to deal with, all the things that we're contending with, negative energies, negative individuals, and the kind of huge field of heaviness and entrapment that the atmosphere and the energy fields around us create. And so what often is that our positive flow peters out. And what happens is that we can't maintain that kind of attitude. We can't maintain that outward feeling of benefit and benevolence. And we fall back to our old responses and our old reactions. So what do we need to do? And this is where meditation really will help us on a great level. We need to take more power. We need to regenerate our love. We need to regenerate our own kind of inner world. The battery of our being needs to kind of be restored back to fullness. And this is one of the ways that meditation really helps us to kind of return back to that state of wellness and well-being and benefits and positivity. So we need to take power from an energy that is pure, that is uncontaminated, not affected by the deteriorating fields around us. And so we connect with the Supreme Soul, that supreme energy, so that our energy, our power, our awareness can be kind of clarified, can be strengthened, regenerated, rejuvenated. Because that's all meditation is regeneration, rejuvenation. Our levels become very low because of influence, because of our journey through time and space, and through the kind of depletions and all the interactions that have kind of eroded our resolves in that particular way. And so we come to meditation to kind of return to that harmonic well-being. And so meditation is this state where we can connect. We can connect and regenerate our energies and fill ourselves with power. This is really an important part today. We need power. We need a kind of an upliftment, a kind of a new resolve where the mind can have a greater sense of focus and concentration. Because constantly this has been attacked, our focus, our concentration, our direction, sabotaged by all the different forms of influence that we kind of looked at, that were constantly kind of talking to us, constantly sabotaging, constantly trying to pull us away from our focus. And so we need to kind of connect within that particular level. And so maybe we can just connect just for a moment with that. I think it's very important, isn't it, for us as spiritual travelers, as guardians of the planet, as initiators of well-being, is to kind of constantly keep regenerating, constantly keep our levels of awareness on a high level. So maybe just for a moment, let us just focus our thinking. Hold your mind on the supreme light with the thought, I center myself in the energy field of God's pure form. It is a globe of purest light. It is a light of peace. It is the light of love. It is the light of purest energy. God's light and pure vibration now regenerates, rejuvenates me, giving me now the strength, the awareness and the power to deal with the things that now come my way. And I can respond with compassion, with love, and with strength. So meditation gives us that kind of great sense of strength, that great sense of renewal and positivity in that particular way. I think we've got a little bit of time. That I was looking a bit earlier on a practical level, maybe because sometimes people ask us, well, okay, that's kind of theoretical when we're looking at, but what about dealing with things on a day-to-day basis? And I was looking at this thing about how can we kind of embed it? And this is a little like a meditation, a little affirmation, embedding these laws of spirituality. And just to kind of talk to ourselves like about, these are entropy. Entropy is really one of the prevailing laws, that things change. It's about appreciating, accepting, but be prepared to let things go. Like, don't hold on to things. It's a natural law for things to change, move, deteriorate, and reformulate. Karma, the law of action, which we've been talking about quite a bit, isn't it, earlier on? Whatever I do, I receive the return of that. So I make sure my actions are true. Otherwise, the effect will come back. It's sometimes we don't want to hear about it. We don't care. We sort of like, we close our eyes, but you can't. So whatever I initiate, I will experience the return of that. It will come back to me, positive or negative. So why not change it and become positive? Why not? We want good things. We want positive things. We want wonderful things. So send out, give out, share those wonderful things and experience it. But there's an interesting law is that whatever you want, you got to give it. I got that down below on benevolence. Benevolence means what I need, I have to give it first. You have to give it. And that diagram I showed you earlier hopefully explains it, clarifies it, because you only give to yourself. How about that? No one gives you anything. I don't think God gives you anything. He teaches you, empowers you, inspires you, but he doesn't give you anything. He's not subject to karma. He's outside karma. So if he gave, he would be subject to karma. That would pull him into the cycle of coming and going, birth and death. No, he gives you that awareness. The awareness is in ourselves. And so benevolence is about giving, just give. But give that which is beneficial, that does not cause sorrow, that does not cause pain, but gives benefit, and you will receive the benefit. And the third one or the fourth one, I got there, drama. Each person, each individual is playing their own unique part. So what I can only do for others is give them respect and support. I can't do anything else. I can't interfere with their part. It's like a play, isn't it? If you're in a play, it's set. Each one is doing what they have to do. And you can't interfere with it. It's set, the part. All I have to do is just appreciate, support them, play your part in the right way, and that will give the kind of others the boundary to do the right thing. You're not setting up waves of chaos around you, which other people forget their lines. So if an actor falls over or forgets himself, all the other actors go, "Oh, I've forgotten what I was going to say." But if you are centered and you play in the right way, then the right things will happen. So the four main laws of spirituality help us to kind of deal with things and be helpful in that particular way. And I thought, just very kind of briefly, I thought we'd look at, if we can kind of look at how can we kind of encapsulate or use it. And one of the things I thought that one area we could look at of influence, there's too many, isn't there? But say difficult people, I kind of in a general term put this term difficult people, and that could be everything. And we understand that difficult people are our spiritual brothers and so on. These are kind of actors in the play, but you understand the label. And in a way, these kind of three particular kind of truths that I put down there, they keep you off balance. Difficult people aim, right? These are kind of the general dynamics, the psychology of what's going on in difficult people. This is generally accepted. This is the general psychology of difficult people, whether they know it or not, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and it's looking at how we can deal with them. Their aim is to render you incapable of effective action because they want to control you. They want to gain control in whatever way. This could be children, it could be people at work, it could be your friends, it could be your partner. Even though you know people, but they still have intrinsically, they may have that kind of makeup in themselves, and they are kind of unconsciously using it and kind of foisting it on yourself, trying to somehow gain control that makes them feel that they are doing the right thing. And maybe we can look at, maybe just briefly, I know this is a very big subject, but an interesting reflection is to kind of reconcile our awareness. A little affirmation. I understand their behavior is a result of some external influence. Something has come in, has influenced them. It's shifted them away from their original, pure spiritual nature. Wrong philosophy, wrong awareness, wrong behavior, some trauma, some kind of fear. There's so many, isn't there? Misinformation. So they've taken it on board. And I think this is the way that they should behave, so on. And again, maybe to ask yourself, what is happening and what is it teaching me? What am I learning from this scenario? Often can be not very pleasant, I know. What is it teaching me? What does it come to tell me about myself and the ways forward? And lastly, this thing about what do I have to give them? I think one of the basic tenets of spirituality is benevolence. That you have to give. In all situations, you have to give. No one can take from you, but we can give. And the only thing that we can give is good wishes, pure feelings, support, cooperation, good vibrations. So what do I have to give at that particular time? Maybe just silence. But a silent, powerful vibrational energy which is supportive. But also maybe interesting is an interesting statement. No one cooperates with anyone who seems to be against them. That when we meet difficult people, and it's interesting, isn't it? Is everybody difficult? Is it nobody's not difficult? I think so many, 9 out of 10 are difficult. I don't know, a higher percentage. So what can we do? And just some kind of thoughts on how we can deal with them, because meditation creates a kind of platform, creates a kind of a position where we emerge our virtues, our inner powers, our spiritual awareness, but still we have to deal with things in a very clear, tactful way, in a clear spiritual manner. And so I had some suggestions that how we can make our spiritual awareness more practical. So a few, you might like, there's probably a lot more that you'd like to add, or you could change and add to, but there's a few, I put a few ideas down. Like don't retreat behind a role or a jargon or false feelings. It's like be yourself, be real. Don't play games with people, and people see through it. Don't try to impose your reality or argue, just share. Just share. Don't kind of give philosophy. Don't try to tell them they're wrong. Just share in a very loving way. Don't try to kind of shift anybody, just because the shift will only come from them. Just share your view, hold your position in a flexible way. Don't, like a tree, isn't it? A tree is a great example. The tree is very firmly rooted, isn't it, in its position, but it'll bend, it'll adapt, it's flexible, it's welcoming, but it never changes its position. Firmly connected to its seed. So we can keep connected to our own reality, to God's love, to God's support. Also let their emotions run out. Sometimes we're with people and you can't get through, you can't get a word in, can you? You can't. Just let it go. Maybe just step inside at that moment while they're ranting. It could be like a rant, couldn't it? Or it could be like some kind of stuff that's going, just be detached, just step inside. It's kind of very protective field, and you go inside. And then it'll finish, then you can kind of connect. Don't get drawn in. This is the big thing. Don't get sucked in. This is part of the kind of the game, isn't it, that goes on in the relationship. Just listen. But listen spiritually. Listen empathically. And then maybe switch to problem solving. You know, you could say, well, it's a bit further down there, questioning skills, well, what do you think? What do you think we should do? Maybe we could try this. Yeah, and so on. Like you engage in a very soft and in a very open way. And of course, use the magic words. I mean, the key magic word is nice to see you, thank you. How often do you hear that? Thank you. Or what do you think? What do you think? How often do you hear that at work or anywhere, isn't it? What do you think? I like your idea. Now that's a powerful one, isn't it? How can I help? Wow, I mean, that one's incredible, isn't it? Do you hear that? Even within the spiritual arena of spiritual soul, I don't hear that much. How can I help? Immediately you open their hearts. Immediately it melts people, isn't it? Address the issue. Don't like we had earlier, don't beat about the bush, just straight. Address the issue. Look, this is the situation. Be honest. Empathize. I understand. Immediately you kind of like you dance with them. You connect. I understand. I do with a smile. A smile dissolves half the effect, when people smile. A smile is a powerful thing, isn't it? It dissolves the block, the barrier. Smiling energy. It's energy. The energy that's coming from you interacts with the field that they're trapped in. So then we go back to that diagram. The field is always, like our field is always connecting with other fields. So we initiate positive fields. And a smile is kind of like it's a trigger. It's a point of the barrel. It will release that. Remain positive. Be positive. This helps to inspire. Just be positive. Yeah, look, we can get over this. This, don't worry about. Yeah, look, I'm sure this happened to me. Look, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if I caused any sorrow. But look, we can help. Be positive. Because it doesn't. What's the value of fighting people? What's the value of rejecting? What's criticizing? You lock them. Trap them in their own prison by criticism, by rejectionism, lack of cooperation. It impounds in their difficulty, their issues. And use questioning skills. We mentioned a bit earlier, isn't it? To help you cope, that we talked about how did it happen and so on. These are door openers. It enables them to come into play. It gives them a kind of an avenue to talk about what they're going through. If it's be anger or some kind of trauma or some kind of injustice or something. And the whole thing's about compromise, and it's about both getting something from things. Compromise, it's a game. No one's trying to win. And then, of course, use vibrations in your words and your attitudes. Talk with a vibrational feel. This has a big effect. So when you speak subtly, speak softly. Speak seeing the soul in front of you. This is my spiritual brother. That vibrational effect will dissolve the barrier, will touch their spiritual heart, will connect with their truth, and so on. So we can deal with difficult people. They're no longer difficult, but they become part of our spiritual family in that way. So I'm just looking, I'll stop there.